Hey everyone, I hope you are having a wonderful day. My name is Tara, and if you are new to my channel, you're very welcome. If you are a returning subscriber or you've seen some of my videos before, my name is still Tara. Thank you for wondering. Today I am filming a video that I have procrastinated for a very long time. Not a very long time, it's just been about a month. I have just felt so unqualified, but I realized that these kind of videos were so helpful for me when I was in the process of self-publishing my first book, and so I thought that it'd be really interesting to get an Irish perspective on it. If you're not from Ireland, you can still hopefully learn something from it. But I know that when I was watching these type of videos and searching for them on YouTube, there was a lot of American perspectives, which was really helpful still. And there's a lot of things that are similar, but there's a few things that are different. So this video will be split up into different sections. So I'm going to be talking about different aspects of self-publishing a book at 18 in Ireland. You can just click to whatever you're interested in, or you can just kind of watch the whole video. So whatever you want to do, you can do that. So just to give you a little bit of background, I wrote Reverie, I think it was at the beginning of September, where I officially launched it and everybody could buy it. This book right here is a very long time in the making. It is a visual poetry book. If you're like, what the heck is that? I was also like, what the heck is that when I first heard of that concept. It's essentially pictures with words. It's the best way I could describe it. So it's poetry that I've written combined with photos that I've taken, and I created designs. So it's 160 pages, 168 pages to be exact. Yeah, I created this all by myself. I did not pay anybody to do any of the design work. I am really proud of it, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. So I'm going to read the blurb to you just so you kind of get a feel for what it's like and what it's about. Here it is, a small extract of a life most ordinary, yet made wonderful by words and understanding, in hope that others will find truth in knowing that we are individually complex, but together we are understood in a way that far exceeds expectations. It's a collection of poetry that I've written over the last 2 years of growing up, and the different challenges that I faced that I felt like a lot of other people could relate to, and maybe help other people find words to different situations that they're going through. The word reverie is an actual English word. I know, I was kind of shocked too, but I just kind of found it and I thought it really summarized what I wanted this book to kind of encapsulate, that's a hard word to say, but it means a state of being pleasantly lost in one's thoughts or a daydream. So that is my book in a nutshell. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I'm talking about self-publishing a book in a very niche market almost, because I haven't really seen a lot of other books like this where it's both photography, poetry and graphic design combined. So now I'm going to talk all about the process of making this book. So how I went from writing my first poem to having the finished product in my hands. So backtrack to when I was 16, because this is kind of where the whole story starts. I was never a huge fan of English. I was always good at it, but I was never like, oh, I love English, this is my passion, I love poetry and all this stuff. That was never really me. I was much more science geared, and I loved science so much. But I had this one English teacher, and it just made me really love English all of a sudden. I started writing kind of more creative things, not just short stories, but more reflections and thoughts, and I really loved it, and it came very natural to me. So one evening I was kind of sitting at home, and I decided I would pull out a journal and just kind of start writing, because I was really bored and I didn't know what to do. I had actually just finished looking at different pictures from my parents when they were growing up, and it just made me feel really sentimental. I don't really know what came over me, but I just pulled out a journal and I started writing. I'm not really intending for it to be a poem. I just kind of wanted to write something because I was feeling something, so I just kind of wrote it. I don't really know how to explain it other than that. I got this journal out that was just a spare notebook that I had, and I wrote a few poems. I literally just wrote a few little poems. It sounds so sappy, but it's just kind of what happened. It was really natural. I didn't force it. So a few months later, I just finished transition year, I think. Hold on. Yes, I had just finished transition year. So that summer when I was 16, a few months later after I had written these poems, I was walking down the street in just my town, and I just finished being with friends, and it was a beautiful summer evening. School had just finished a few weeks before that, and the sun was setting, and it was just so I don't know, I just felt like I was in like a coming of age movie. I don't know, I felt so cool at the time, but it really wasn't that big of a deal. And I just wanted to remember that moment because I felt like I was growing up. I wanted to remember what it felt like becoming more sure of myself and becoming more independent. So I didn't have a notebook on me because usually people don't have notebooks on them when they're coming back from meeting up with their friends. So I pulled out my iPhone, went to my notes app, and literally just started writing as I was walking down, and it was just like a 15-line poem, but again, it wasn't like a poem in my head. It was just kind of something that I want to remember, like a journal entry or just something that I could reflect on and like look back afterwards. It was kind of weird like when I say it out loud, but it just felt really natural to me at that moment. And so that's kind of where Reverie started to develop, because I just started writing poem after poem after poem. I was kind of writing like 2 or 3 a day, and before I knew it, I had like over 200 poems. So that summer, I essentially finished writing that whole book, but I never intended it to be a book. I just wanted it to be for myself. So after that summer, I just kind of left it, and throughout the next school year, I would just kind of write poems here and there, but not as consistently. When I was 17 last summer, I kind of came across the whole document and I decided, why don't we try to do something with this? So I got this journal here and I started writing down thoughts and ideas and concepts. Literally just started like scribbling down different ideas and what it could look like. I wrote out all of the poems that I had. I read through all of them, highlighted the ones that I thought were like the strongest ones. I didn't really feel like all of them were good enough. Put them onto like a Word document, printed them all out on my printer, and just started to manually like lay them out and to kind of tell a story and divide them up into different chapters. So once I did that, I got a folder, which I will get for you. So I got this folder here, which is just again a random folder that I had, and I essentially laid out every single one of my poems in the order that I wanted to. I used these as like chapter dividers, and as you can see, they're just little poems. And what I started to do was every morning I would go to like my local coffee shop, which is like really nice, like beautiful, bright, sunny windows, and I would sit down and draw little concepts of what I wanted the pages to look like, if you can see them there. So I did that for every single one of the pages. They're really bad, really ugly. It was really helpful for me to kind of see what I wanted to look like, start brainstorming, and I laid out my entire book. So the whole concept was there and ready to go, but now I just needed to take pictures. So again, I didn't have like a fancy camera or anything. I just used my iPhone 6, and with the help of my little sister, who is not a photographer or anything, she literally just can take pictures, you know, just hold an iPhone and press the button. And so we started taking pictures when I went over to visit my grandparents in Hungary, because it's so beautiful and sunny over there. So that summer I started taking some of the pictures, but then again I left it because I was going into my busiest year and my final year in secondary school. So I knew I wouldn't have a lot of time, so that was just kind of put on the back burner, but I knew I always really wanted to do it. It was kind of like a dream of mine, but I didn't know when it was going to happen because I was just so busy with so many other things. So when the coronavirus came and Ireland went into lockdown and school was cancelled, and then later on my leaving cert was cancelled, I had a lot more time on my hands, as all of us did, to just kind of work on different things. So I decided, well, this is a perfect time to work on my book. So I pulled this folder back out, started taking pictures with my sister. I didn't really have any graphic design experience. I've never done any training. I don't know how to use Photoshop or Illustrator or anything like that. And I kind of wanted a more organic kind of feel. So I decided I'd buy a secondhand iPad and Apple Pencil, and I got it for like a really good price, and I downloaded Procreate, and I just started to make my book. It was just kind of page by page, slowly went through it. It was actually such a relaxing process for me. Like I loved after, because I was still studying when I started doing it because my leaving cert hadn't been cancelled yet. I would just sit in my bed and make the design, and it was just really fun for me. It just felt like I was making a piece of art, and I always loved creating things. When my leaving cert got cancelled, then it kind of ramped up. So I was doing like 5 pages a day, and that might not sound like a lot, but it's quite like intricate, all the designs. So I did a lot of that. I would just kind of take pictures with my sister. We would use what we had in our back garden, use what we had in our front, kind of in our neighborhood when we weren't allowed to travel outside. I was simultaneously making the book and looking into different ways of publishing it when it kind of came around to it. So I looked into so many different options, and there are so many options out there for self-publishing, but I found the best one was blurb.com. They started off as more for photographers to create like photo books for clients, but they expanded into trade books, and trade books are books like this, you know, that are like paperback and that they can be easily distributed and they're light and the pages are a lot thinner than it would be in like a photo book. It really just felt like the best option to me. I'm not going to speak about all the other ones because they might work like better for you, but I only have experience with Blurb, so that's all I'm going to speak about. I've just had such a great experience with them. They are so fast to reply to all of the emails, all the inquiries that I have. I just felt like it was such a smooth process in creating my book with them, so I decided to go with them. They also have an editing software called Bookwrite, which is basically how you lay out your book, and it's really handy. So I just downloaded that on my computer. It was completely free, and I just transferred the designs I had made on Procreate. I airdropped them over to my laptop and put them in. I don't know what my hands are doing. So I was reading a bunch of articles at this point, and watching a bunch of different YouTube videos similar to this one on how people marketed their book as a young person, because you don't have a lot of connections, and especially if you live in somewhere like Ireland, where there's not usually like a huge market and a lot of like publishers and all this stuff. My camera overheated, so I had to take a bit of a break, so if the angle is a little bit different, I apologize. Also, my dog is sleeping on my bed and he's snoring, so if you can hear that in the background, that's what that is. This is my dog Max, and he is snoring, but it's cool. So that was my process of making the book, and kind of the majority of the story. Obviously I could go into way more detail, but that's what worked for me. I think it's different for everybody. It was really a matter of learning as I was going. Every time I needed to find a next step, I would just keep researching. I mean, we have the internet, we have so much information out there, and just kind of talking to anybody who maybe in your life has already published a book or self-published a book. I personally didn't know anybody, so I was just kind of figuring it out through Google and YouTube. Personally, I felt like Procreate really suited the style that I was going for, and then Blurb was just perfect for me to publish my book. I also found that it was the cheapest to self-publish, because self-publishing is not cheap. I was very fortunate that I had a bit of money saved, and I was like, thank you Tara from 5 years ago for not spending that birthday money and saving all the money that you got from piano teaching and babysitting, because it is paying off now. But yeah, just keep that in mind, that there are a lot of costs involved, but you can be smart about it. You don't need to go and hire an editor or hire a, you know, cover maker or whatever. You just have to try to do the best with what you have, and kind of weigh up what expenses you're willing to pay for and what you can do for yourself. Definitely there was discouraging moments where I was like, I don't even want to do this anymore, this looks so bad. I was like crying and all this stuff, but that's just part of the process. So you just have to keep going, and remind yourself of why you're doing this, and maybe take a few breaks away from it to just be able to see it in a new light. Maybe show somebody that you trust, like your parents or one of your close friends, to just kind of be able to give a second opinion. And don't be afraid of constructive criticism, but make sure that you're also staying true to what you envision this book to be. Now I'm going to talk all about marketing. When I kind of was coming to the end of creating my book, I decided I needed some kind of a platform to market it on. That's my dog, Max. He just wanted to make a feature in the video, it's okay. I've had this YouTube channel for 2 years now, but literally there's less than 200 subscribers on it, so yeah, I didn't really have that much of a platform, which is okay because a lot of us don't have a huge platform. It's not like we all have like million subscriber YouTube channels, so I needed to be smart about how I was going to just release my book. I couldn't just say I wrote a book. I had to be strategic about it. So I decided I'd create a separate platform, a separate Instagram, Facebook, and I even changed my YouTube channel recently, if you noticed, called The Sunshine Co. Just the platform for me to release any content artistically that I produced. So I released a few collections beforehand while I was working on my book. So I did some like embroidery hoops, I did some cards, some graphic design, and so I did that just to have a bit of a platform, so that when I launched my book it wasn't just fresh, but it had a bit of a platform to kind of stand upon, if you kind of imagine it like building Lego blocks. When it came time, it kind of made a bit more sense. I also created a small little book trailer. Again, it was just me and my sister in her room, and I just came up with an idea for it. It was a lot of fun to make because it was just really raw, really organic. I spent zero money on editing. finished with the 160 pages and I had gone through it, editing it so many times, they sent me a free copy. So you're allowed to get one free copy with Blurb if you're ordering a large amount. I think it's over 100 books you have to order, and then they'll give you a free copy. So this was the very first book I received, and it is not perfect in any ways. There were so many mistakes that I just had to go back and fix. I just had to keep going back and editing it and making it better. And then I ordered a second one, which is this guy here. They literally look the exact same to you because, I mean, you can't tell because they're just small details, but they were important to me. There were so many little typos that I was so annoyed at myself for making, but it's just part of the process, and you have to kind of know that there's going to be mistakes in the book when you first order it, because what it looks like digitally is so different to what it looks like on paper. So that was just part of the process, and it was really frustrating at the time, but definitely don't rush into just releasing your book or buying 200 of them until you're really sure that it is to the highest standard that you can make it. So once I had the 2 proof copies, I finally ordered the 200 books that are currently sitting in my room right over there. A lot less now because people have been buying them. With the Sunshine Co, I then released the book trailer. I released everything and kind of had it really, you know, hyped up, and just kind of had everything released on that day. And there's a kind of a build up to it. I was like 3 days to go for a big announcement, but I only did that once I actually physically had the 200 books in my room, because you know, there's no point in saying that I have a product ready when it's not even here. So once I was happy with it, that's when I launched it. I didn't rush it. There was moments where I was like, oh, I just want to tell people, but I just knew that I had to wait and be patient, because it was definitely going to be a lot better once I finally released it if I had waited and had everything ready. So moving now on to distribution, I currently sell my books on Etsy. That is the only platform that my books are available. Blurb also has like a book shop online that you can sell your books. I think mine is up there for people to buy, but people aren't really like, it wouldn't drive a lot of traffic. So unless you already have kind of connections and people are already looking at that profile, then you probably won't be making a lot of sales on that. But I decided for myself personally, Etsy was the way to go, because I had already had sales on Etsy from a lot of other products that I had released, and I also have people contacting me directly through Instagram and Facebook and my social media platforms if they want to buy a book. So I just kind of set that up for them personally, depending on, you know, if they live in my town, then I would just meet up with them and give the book to them and they pay me in cash. So that's kind of what I decided to do. Etsy is a really good place because you can set up all of your own like delivery fees and everything, and it also drives traffic that people who maybe don't follow you on your Instagram, they just come across your book if they're searching for poetry books. So there's a lot of really great opportunities on Etsy, and I'd really recommend it. It can be a bit pricey to distribute it, so make sure that you check into the pricing and make sure that you're willing to pay those fees and that you're still making a profit from it, because you definitely want to make a profit from a book that you've made. The day I put up the book trailer, I had it scheduled to go up at a certain time on YouTube and on Instagram, and on TikTok and on Facebook and all of the platforms that I could possibly think of, Pinterest as well. I also had the listing on Etsy ready to go, and so I launched it all at 7 p.m. on a Friday evening, and my book was out there. And so I started getting orders, people were sharing it and everything, which was really fun and a little bit overwhelming at first, because it's like, okay, it's actually out there, and then when people are ordering it, you're like, this is crazy, people are actually wanting to read my work. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing. After the initial kind of hype up and launch, it kind of starts to die down, and you have to be really careful that you don't just decide to, okay, well that's it, I'm going to start working on my other project. So you have to come up with creative ideas as to how you can market your book. So depending on what type of book it is, where you live, the different connections that you have. I reached out to a few publishers and people who are like editors and things like that, who are literally from other countries, that I just took phone calls with them to just learn from them. I just took any opportunity I could to learn. And one thing that I really think is really important is to kind of take opportunities as they come and to make opportunities for yourself, which sounds a bit weird, but I knew that if I was just passive, sitting back and just trying to let the book sell itself, it wasn't going to do that. Because when you've written a book and you've worked on a book, you are the seller and you are the sales representative of your book. So you take every opportunity you can. Yeah, I'm just going to kind of give you some ideas maybe that you can work on and maybe contextualize into your own context. You can have all the amazing branding, you can have all of the great cohesive graphics, which I think is really important. If you look at my Instagram or any of my social medias, I try to have a common theme. I picked certain colors, I picked certain elements into the graphic design that I wanted to use that would kind of be cohesive with how my book looks and the style that I have as an artist and as a designer. But you also need to kind of get coverage from other platforms, so whether that's newspapers, radio stations, magazines, other social media accounts. And so what I did was I made a list of every single newspaper, radio station, magazine, I don't know, anything else that I could think of that I was possibly interested in sharing my book and my work about. So I just went online, I found their email addresses which are just available to the public, and I wrote emails to lots and lots and lots and lots of different platforms. And I honestly, when I was sending them out, did not think that they would send anything back to me, but they did. And I have already been interviewed for a radio station, a local newspaper, which came out last week, which was really exciting. So this is my article. And so all of these things aren't supposed to make your ego inflate. It's more just to get your work out there. And personally, I'm a very more naturally shy person and don't really want to like tell people about my book or my work because I feel like it's boasting. But I think there's a difference between boasting and just wanting to get your work out there. It depends on what motive you're doing it with. My motive wasn't so that I would get all this fame and this adoration. It was more just that I wanted to share this work with people because I believe it's going to help people, and I think that it has a place in the poetry world. So I decided I would do that. Always be open and honest with your interviews. Also take any opportunity that comes. Be really grateful and respectful for these people taking their time to interview you. Yeah, just be open and authentic. Don't be nervous. It's just like a conversation a lot of the time. I always follow up afterwards with an email just expressing how thankful I am and how humbled I am, because it is such an incredible opportunity to be in different things like that. But even if you don't get those opportunities, you can still just make the best of what you have. If you're in school, maybe just tell your principal and they can maybe put it on school social media accounts, or just keep spreading the word. I think that most of the time it's going to have to just grow organically, and you can throw a bunch of money at it for marketing. I haven't spent a single cent in marketing. I've just kind of used any opportunity that I've been given and tried to harness that to the best of my ability. And I've also been interviewed for a magazine which is coming out next month, which will be really exciting as well. So again, I'm just so grateful for all the opportunities. I think you definitely have to be brave and confident in your work. If you've produced a work that is to the highest standard, you should be proud of it, and you should be humbled by it, that you're given opportunities, but you should also just be confident that you have a voice and that you have something to say. And so yeah, don't be afraid of approaching people, emailing them. Obviously don't harass people, but just send them an email and just say, hey, look, this is my story. Just be real and honest with them, and if it's the right fit for their platform, then they'll interview you. Don't be afraid of rejection, because that's just going to come. I mean, there's so many people that didn't get back to me, some people that just said that they're not interested, and that's okay, because those opportunities might come further down the line. Another thing that I did, kind of a weird story, me and my friend who was also interested in publishing, we went to this like publishing workshop in Dublin about a year ago, and I had a few concepts made up of my book, but they're like really bad because this was before I had Procreate. I was literally making them, I think it was on PicMonkey, but I had like the free trial, so I just screenshotted them instead of downloading them. I know. I made these little like portfolio things when my book was in its like really early stages last year, and so I just wrote them like a little brief of like what I want my book to be about and what I think it could be and stuff like that. And I didn't end up giving it to anybody at the workshop because I was just so scared, and I realized after the workshop that I had so much more work to do and that rushing into things was just not the way to go. I think the intention that I had back then was definitely good, and so if you are maybe struggling with a certain aspect, maybe print out a few of these things of like mood boards and design ideas, write a nice little like introduction, introducing yourself and your work, and maybe give it to people who may be interested and might have a bit of experience in that area. I think if you have the desire and you have the drive to do something, you really can do it. You just have to be willing to take challenges that come. Like for example, I was like, oh, because I live in Ireland, there's not as big of a market because our population is smaller. That's just something that's a fact. And so if I was living in America, I might have more opportunity, but I couldn't let that stop me from pursuing what I wanted to do, because that was just an excuse that was going to get in the way. And now that I've published it, I've realized that there's actually so much opportunity in Ireland for these things. It might not look like America, but it's cool because I get to tap into a new space and maybe make way for other people who want to publish a book or self-publish. Another thing that I found really useful to do was to tap into the different areas of what is popular right now. Obviously you don't want to forfeit your brand and your style for just going with whatever's trending, but you have to be also smart about it, business smart, thinking business wise. Make sure that you stay true to what you're doing and your brand and your style and your mission. It's important that you don't put like wanting to get famous or whatever over your actual product. So yeah, just make sure that your motives are kept in the right place. Different unconventional ways, you know, of marketing your book, because as good as it is being in newspapers and magazines, that isn't always the best way to reach your target market, especially if you're more targeting young people. They're not necessarily reading the newspaper, although some people do, but it's just probably not the best way. So just think of who your book is being marketed to and try to go to those places that they are. Yeah, that's kind of my story. I hope that helps you a little bit. If you'd like to buy my book or you'd like to get some more information about it, you can just click the links down in the description below. I'm also open to just chatting to any of you. You can contact me on my Instagram at thesunshine_co. You can DM me, ask me any questions there. I would love to answer any of the questions that you may have and help you along and maybe make the journey a little bit easier for you. Thank you so much for all of the support and just the lovely messages and the different ways people are supporting me, whether it's by buying my book or just commenting or liking or whatever. Just thank you so much. It's been such an amazing journey, and I'm so excited for just new Irish young authors to make their way out and kind of just see what this whole new market could be, because we definitely have a voice and there's definitely a need for Irish poetry, especially from young people. So yeah, I just hope that you have a wonderful day. If you'd like to check out anything else that I've talked about, my book trailer or my radio interview or any of that stuff, I'll also have all of that linked in below. That's it. I feel like I've said everything, I think. So yeah. Bye guys, have a wonderful day.